Welcome back to taking a look at Native Instruments Creator Tools. I want to pick up kind of where we left off in the previous video. Just one thing, I know I was kind of lazy in the previous video to show the KSP variable watching, so I just want to quickly show that so we don't have a tool that we didn't show. Kind of was lazy writing the script, which is basically just adding 2 lines. So basically it just means, like as I said, if you have something like, let's say, a slider which has continuous values, you can just do something like watch var and in there put the variable that you want to watch, and then instead of, like, you know, if I did it with a message, so every time that the slider was moving, like in the UI callback, I would message the slider, I would have this huge loads of lines in the log. Instead of that, I can just watch the variable in the variable watching log, and yeah, I guess we can see that I'm moving the slider and I get the value over there. So that's just the variable watching, as opposed to seeing it here, where it's kind of just logging. It is still logging it, but here you see it in one line. So just these 2, let's say, options of doing that. So we looked now at the KSP logs, we looked at the variable watching, we looked at the Lua scripts, everything, and basically we saw that the instrument editor can read the instruments, and we saw that we can load stuff from here from the left. But over here on the top left we have something called the project manager, and over here we have something called the GUI designer. And let's now take a look at how all of that kind of ties in together and helps you in building your instrument, and especially the GUI, and let's say in a bit more of a, maybe let's call it like a modern sort of way. So if I go in Kontakt, or actually let's first close this guy and I'll go to the Finder here, and this worth to mention. So this thing that I have here is from the previous video. It's this repository that I downloaded here. So basically you just have a GitHub account, and I went to here and then I just downloaded the repository. So this is the repository, the zip for the repository after it's been expanded. And inside I have these Lua functions that we talked about previously, but we also have this folder here called CT template, Creator Tools template. Now this basically gives you, and you will see how it's kind of helpful in a minute, all the basic files you need to be able to just basically just load a project and basically get going. So I kind of recommend to actually grab this, and every time you want to start a project, so basically start building a new Kontakt instrument, instead of just starting from like an NKI like in the past, I would start with this CT template, because it already makes the connections between the different files that you will be needing to use, and it's just much simpler. Perhaps in the future something like this will be provided already, like a template within Creator Tools, but for now it's cool, you can grab this guy. So basically what I want to do is, first we see that we have an NKI in this folder, so let's just take this NKI and drop it in Kontakt. And then of course, as I mentioned in the previous video, if you go here, we see Creator Tools connected, and we also see that we have this instrument here loaded in the instrument editor. There's nothing much going on. There's just one group. There are no zones. Really nothing there, basically. But it is connected, and it is loaded over here in Kontakt. Now, in Creator Tools, or basically let's go one step backwards. If we go in the script now, you see that I have a knob here, right? So if you're familiar with Kontakt in the past, you would expect the script for this thing to say something like make pref view, right? Because I have a performance view here. I'm not an edit view, and I am seeing my knob. And then you would expect like something like a knob declaration, right? So declare UI knob and the range and the divisor and whatever. But if you go in the script, you see that all it has is something called load performance view, and then just a message, a hello world message, that I guess we see it in the KSP log over here. So it's completely different and kind of what we expect, at least in the past, from the way we used to build the GUI for a Kontakt instrument. Now, so where is this GUI? What is it doing here? Why am I going back to the line? So what is it doing here? So load performance view instrument. So basically this is this guy over here, right? We can see that in the template we have the NKI, and in the resources we have performance view folder and an instrument.nckp. So this is the performance view file. It is being loaded in a script, and you don't need the extension, so basically just the name of the file, which is instrument in this case. So it's a template, right? So everything is just called instrument, and it's generic in making the connection. So the first thing that you notice is that we have the connection made already to the performance view. The second thing you will notice that in the template we already have the link to the text file in the script folder of the template. So you don't need to actually even apply the link. If we double click here, oops, why is it not opening in Sublime? It should have. Maybe I didn't do the. In any case, so if you open in Sublime, you see that this is already connected. So this would be the script for our little instrument over here. So with this template, as you can see, all the connections are made. You have the performance view file connected to the NKI, and you have the text file connected to the NKI. Now, what do you do with all this stuff? So if you're familiar with Kontakt, aside from this file that is kind of unfamiliar until Creator Tools, you have another new file, which is the NCPR. Now, this is the actual Creator Tools project file. And if we go here, and then I guess it's on the desktop. Yeah, exactly. CT template, and then we have this NCPR. If we click on it, it opens the project. Basically, it didn't do anything here. Basically, so this is just a container, and it's a quick load for the different project files and the resources that the project contains. So what interests us right now is actually the NCKP file, the performance view itself. So in Creator Tools, again, remember this performance view that we have here, the NCKP file that we load here. If we double click it, you will see that the Creator Tools, it jumped to the GUI Designer tool, and it tells us that it opened this instrument NCKP file. So before we even get into everything that you can do here, if we just quickly, kind of click around, and we see this panel thing here, and we see a knob, and we look here and we see a knob, and okay, so this is the knob, right? And if we just quickly explore, so we click the knob, and it has all these things here on the right, all these parameters, and the first one is show, so maybe let's just click show. Let's look in Kontakt. Nothing happened. Okay. So we see it's not saved, right? So if we now go here to save all, or Control S, or I guess Mac S, Function S, whatever, save all, now we see it's not dirty anymore. And if we go in Kontakt, the knob disappeared. So amazing. So we already can see and understand that, yeah, we made the connection, and this is the actual performance view for this instrument, and if we manipulate stuff over here, it'll respond over here, which makes it kind of neat. I don't even need to be in my script view at all. I can just be over here, and I can... So now let's show the knob again. I save again, Mac S, and then I can see the knob again. So this is the performance view. Great. What can we do here? So basically, as you know, the old way of Kontakt, you would declare here in your KSP, in the init callback, all your GUI components. And it could get, especially for designers, it's not really, let's say, a modern way to create GUIs, right? And this is a little bit kind of, let's say, convolved and unnecessary, and also doesn't really provide any sort of separation at all between the GUI and the script, like the work that the script is supposed to do, right? Because KSP, in the end, is supposed to, the script here is supposed to kind of control the logic of your instrument, but not necessarily, the role shouldn't have been maybe necessarily to create the GUI. So Creator Tools attempts to address also that, but also just give you a better tool to kind of do it in a graphical way. So, after all that monologue, the very first thing is the performance view itself, which would be like the old Kontakt term for the pref view. So you can set the width, you can set the height, all the properties for this thing. So as you saw, all the properties are on the right-hand side. And then if you go here, you have basically all the widgets that you know from KSP. So everything that you can declare in the KSP script, like in the past, you can basically click here and a widget for that is available here. So for example, I had knob. What if I want now a slider, for example? So let's put it inside the panel. So I have to be in the panel, and then where was I? Slider, or okay, switch, that works too, and the slider. Now again, save all, go to Kontakt, and it's kind of ugly, but I have my slider. Or where is my slider actually? My slider is, I don't know, where is it? Let's see. Okay, maybe it's a good time to note. So again, you saw it already. So the properties are all on the right, and these are all the properties that you know from KSP. So for example, depending on the widget, the properties change. So for example, a switch will have all the switch hover stuff, you know, and maybe the string and whatever a switch has in KSP. And the slider will have the minimum and maximum value and the mouse orientation, and again, all that stuff that a slider should have. I don't know why it's not showing my slider. Maybe, wait, let's save all. Ah, there it is. Okay, good. So slider, knob, and a switch. And again, as usual, so for example, to skin the slider, you just put the image here. Everything the same as, again, everything the same as KSP, but it's just available here. One thing to note, that's in Creator Tools, in the new way of creating the GUI over here, all the different names for the variables are influenced by the name of the parent variable. And then in our case, parents can be panels, only panels. So what do I mean by that? So for example, here you see we have this top panel over here. Let's call it main. Let's put in this panel another panel. Let's call it OSC. That's going to be our oscillator. Let's put another panel. Again, I went back to the main panel, right? And let's put a, I don't know, filter. And then inside our filter, let's have another panel and call it filter and whatever. That's going to be our envelope. And then another panel and call it filter LFO. Okay. And then in our LFO, let's put, I don't know, a slider and call it rate, I guess. And in our filter envelope, let's put a slider and call it decay, just for the examples, right? Not everything. I just want to show you something. So in the past, in KSP, when you want to declare something, right, you would just declare UI knob or whatever, and then just give it a name. What I want to show you here is that the names are influenced by the parents. So if we go all the way down to the decay slider in the filter envelope, you will notice that the actual name for this variable is main underscore filter, because it's a panel, right? Underscore filter and only then decay. So the actual last thing will be whatever we put here. So if we put blah, 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 that would be the name for the variable. So just take that into account. There are pros and cons for this. And maybe I guess I can show you maybe right now the pros and the cons for this. So maybe let's delete this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. So let's say, okay, right now we have a totally empty performance view, right? What if we wanted to, maybe I shouldn't have deleted everything. Okay, what if we have envelope? Envelope. So envelopes usually have at least attack, decay, sustain, and release, right? Attack, decay, sustain, and release. At the very least, right? So I don't know. Attack, decay, sustain, release. So now I made an envelope. Okay, and then I go into all my sliders, and let's say I set everything to the minimums and the maximums that I want. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's say, and I set the, I don't know, this should be vertical, and I set the image, my image, and I do everything that I want to do, and I set up my envelope perfectly. And then I realize, wait a minute, I have 3 other envelopes in my project. So in the old way in KSP, right, you could, of course, copy all the declarations, and then you would go and you would rename the variables or whatever so that you have a unique envelope, and you would need to kind of position everything again and blah, blah, blah. Here, this kind of way of taking the variable name from the parent, the advantage here is that I can just do something now like call this amp envelope, copy this guy, paste this guy, and then, I don't know, rename this guy filter env, and then everything below, I don't have to rename anything further, right? Everything is unique now because it inherits from the parent. So the release is going to be called main filt env release, and this release is main amp env release. So that is kind of cool because you can really quickly kind of reuse them, right? Reuse them kind of like black box modules. You make one time and then you just copy and paste. It's actually really, really fast. Another thing you can do is once you have these panels set up, so for example, I have this envelope and I did it now in this project, right? I copy pasted. What if I start a completely new project and I know I'm going to be kind of using the same thing again and again? So just for example, I'm going to call this, I don't know, envelope. That's what it is, right? It's an envelope. And this saves a, I don't even remember, what's the extension? NCKC file. It's a control file. Basically, it's just this hierarchy. So now if I go to import, there we go. I put it here. I have this file. I can open it. And there we go. We have this same hierarchy again. So that's actually really, really nice and really useful and really facilitates really fast prototyping compared to the old way that we used to do it by declaring with KSP. There is one kind of drawback or something that at least, of course, we need to be aware of, is that by the nature of this thing, that it takes the variable names from the parent, every time we move something, then of course the variable name actually changes. So unlike when we declared it in KSP, you know, you declare some slider, you give it a variable name, and no matter where you place it on the GUI, it doesn't matter, it retains the same name. Right here, if I, for example, I don't know, in this guy had another slider and, or a switch, right? Where is the switch? So I had a switch, I don't know, I call it vel. If it's clicked, the envelope responds to velocity, whatever, I don't know. Then I decided, wait, I like it, but instead of having it in the filter, I don't like that. I'm going to have my filter unresponsive to velocity. I'm going to move it, or no, it is going to be responsive, but it's going to just move here, whatever. Now the variable name changed, and I have to go back to my KSP and to my callbacks and to change the variable, and it's kind of a little bit annoying, right? So we have to make sure that we are at least aware of this while we are designing and kind of taking into account this variable naming. Just to show that, so let's delete again all of this. Let's make a knob and let's make a slider, not a slider, let's make a slider and let's make a label, for example, and then let's save everything, or let's give our label some sort of string so it shows something. Me is label, and save it. Go to Kontakt. Where is our label? Me is label. It's not saved. Save, or is it? Save. Where is our label? Come on, label. 100, 100. Chop chop. I don't know. Let's give it some width just in case. And let's save all. Ah, okay, we just can't see the color. It's there, but you just can't see it. I can't see it in any case with my eyes. Anyway, it's here. Now let's move the slider a little bit as well so we can at least manipulate it. So we have a label and we have a slider now. Just really normal, you know, and we just have one line here, load performance view, right? And we have these guys. So just to show that the way we would now access them is, so we know the variable name, this guy, it's main slider, and I guess this guy is just main label, right? And if we go into our KSP, now we can just simply do on UI control, and then print it, and then end on, and then set text. What's the other guy's name? Main label, and then let's put main slider in there. And then I guess save this guy as well, and then yay! So it works. So basically it's just the same as always, just wanted to show you. And yeah, that's just the way it would work, doing it with the GUI designer. So again, just to recap, so with the GUI designer, basically what you do is you need to have an NCKP file. I highly recommend that you just use the template. It's so much simpler because you have everything already set up and you can just simply start working. Just reuse the template. So for example, download it, copy it somewhere, and when you start a new instrument, just give it a name. Rename the CT template and just start from that and keep the template for the next times as well. And then basically you have, as we said, everything connected and you can start working and you already have an NCKP file. Otherwise, just to show you that if you don't have one, you can create a performance view file. I can even create additional performance view files for this instrument, but of course you can only load them on the init callback in any case. So just whatever, just so you know. So it's same as like doing something like make pref view or whatever. So you load it in the init callback. So this is kind of an overview of all the different tools and the different things that you can do with them and how to kind of manipulate and build an instrument. In the next video, I will actually show some examples of things that I've been experimenting with, basically like example instruments that kind of make use of the Lua scripts in the instrument editor to map the instrument, and then make use of the GUI designer to create the GUI for the instrument, and then kind of make use, of course, of the KSP logging just to see what's going on in the instrument. So see you in the next one, everyone. Hope you found some info here.